As a high-achieving individual who thrives off of goals and accomplishments, a question I often ask myself is, when is it enough? And truthfully, I don't know if I have a satisfying answer to this question, but what I can say, though, is that I have a routine that I do as a means to bring me back to center and focus on the things that really matter. If you want to know how to actually level up your life, it's your lucky day, because I'm about to show you a framework that has helped me avoid burnout and consistently achieve my goals over the last 8 years.
Hello, my name is Macy. I'm 23 years old and I live alone in New York City with this lovely piece of fluff named Olive, who is really angry right now. Being at 100% 24/7 is just not a realistic goal. But that doesn't mean that you can't achieve what you want in life. It just means that you need to craft a more sustainable means of living that allows you to progress and grow at the same time. This routine that I'm about to show you today is going to look different for everyone, and it looks different for me based on what area of life that I'm in. So my disclaimer is that these 3 elements that I'm about to focus on have been selected based on, what energizes me and what aligns with my personal values. But I do believe that this framework is applicable to anyone for that matter, and I'm going to show you how I apply it to my life. So without further ado, let's get into the first part, which is close personal relationships. So to me, personal relationships are really important. I think, part of it's going to be giving back, like, volunteer work, finding fulfillment just from engaging with others. And then on the other side, it's also building a support system that, really adds value to my life. We are social creatures, and obviously accomplishments and goals and all of that is part of what energizes me and part of what gets me excited. But I do think that good personal relationships make all the difference in your highs and your lows. Like, you want to be able to have people that you can celebrate the highs and the wins with, but you also want people that will have your back when you're going through a low. And you might not always think about that. I know I don't always think about that from like a day-to-day basis, but I'm trying to shift that. It's just something that I have to be a bit more intentional about with how I treat others and, just how I think about things. It's part of this phase of life that I'm in where I'm not looking to settle down and buy a house and all of that. That's just not something that I'm actively looking for right now. It's something that I will do eventually, but not right now. And, personal relationships are really important during this time period because I have the ability to maintain and grow deeper in my close relationships because everybody is within close proximity to me, at least in the city. And, there's a bunch of factors that go into it. So I do think it's relevant. So let's talk about challenges with this. For one, I am a very introverted person, and that's probably my personal biggest challenge. I am an only child. I don't have any siblings. So I spent a lot of alone time, and I was not always surrounded by others, which isn't a bad thing. It just means that I'm naturally a bit more introverted, I think, based on, my upbringing and my environments at the time. And then there's the other part where, I graduated college when I was 19, and I have been very used to being the youngest in the room, typically, which has its benefits. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be pushed harder. I feel like I've probably grown up a lot faster just because I've been surrounded by more mature and interesting people. But I will say it's also a little bit of a hindrance in the sense that it's a little bit lonely. Truth be told, I'm kind of in a limbo phase, and I felt like I've been in a limbo phase for the last 7 years where, everybody my own age is fantastic and great, but there are certain things just from a maturity standpoint that sometimes I don't really feel like I get that understanding, I guess. There's nothing wrong with that, and we all grow at different paces, but I just personally have always never really felt that support in some sense. And then on the flip side, I've grown up not wanting to tell people my age because I've always felt I'm going to be perceived differently, which is true. As much as people will say no, I definitely see that perception shifting in how I'm treated and how I'm approached. And it's just very different. I feel like there's not the same level of respect sometimes when, I'm younger, which I can understand as well. I love my friends. I think they're great, but I do just feel like that's a growing pain for myself personally. That might not be a very universal experience. It's just that something that, it's a growing pain for this stage of life that I'm at. And it's kind of hard to find high quality friends. And then you add all of these layers into it. And I haven't really met somebody that's in a similar stage of life and mindset as myself because I'm in a bit of a unique situation. But again, that's a very personal problem. Those are the challenges that I'm facing currently. But how I'm going to actually apply the action. So it has to do with intentionality, but it's going to be 2 parts. It's going to be, meeting new friends, and then maintaining close relationships with others. It's obviously not rocket science, but it is something that you just have to like remind yourself to be intentional about. So for one, I love meeting new people. So I'm always open to meeting new people no matter where I am. I will never say no to a friendly encounter. I probably could be better at like going up to people myself, but I'm a little scared. And the second part is, I'm also pushing myself to be a bit more of a better friend to those that I already have and bringing that generosity to those friendships. It's something that I think does not always come super naturally. In some sense it does, but I do want to be a bit more intentional about that and deepen the relationships that I do have. So the action for this week that I am Stop it, Olive. No. Do you see this? With all that to be said, the action that I'm going to be taking this week is I am making cardamom buns, and I have never attempted this. So, if this goes terribly, like this is going to be really unfortunate, but I'm going to attempt to make something a little bit more fun, and I am going to give them out to my friends. I bought these like cellophane bags that like seal themselves. So let's jump into the baking segment. So fragile. We have officially finished the cardamom buns, and this is what they're looking like. The next part, chapter 2, if you will. Creativity. So creativity, very abstract, very broad, but it has a very specific meaning to myself. I think of originality and differentiation when I think of creativity. Personally, I don't love the idea of, being an imitation of someone else, nor do I enjoy being like performative either. So I think it goes in line with building a unique identity. And I really like that creativity can be a very active thing. It can be expressed, and creativity makes its way in so many different art forms, and art in itself is a vessel for meaning and fulfillment. I think humans are wired to want to feel like they have made an impact of some sort and that they feel special. I think who doesn't want to feel special? I think that's very ingrained in our system. So to me, practicing creativity is an active part of that role. So take that with a grain of salt, and perhaps there's something else that's maybe more applicable to your life. But for me, at least, from like a framework perspective, having some sort of like active part of this reset ritual is really important because I want things to change. Like if I am trying to reset, then I usually want to change whatever bad habits or bad routine that I've gotten myself into and go back to the basics. So whatever that means for you, for me, it's creativity. And the action that I'm going to be taking is actually something that I have talked about a little bit ago. The artist's way. I have not been very good at following through on this, but I love the concept. I love the idea of, the morning pages. I think having some sort of means of kind of exercising that freedom of writing is really, really cool. And then, the artist date, I think, is really, really cool. That's almost an excuse for me to engage in projects that I have been putting off and, are a little bit more creative focused rather than like productivity. Like it's not really getting me to XYZ goal. Can you not do that? Get off. Go away. Off. Ow. I'm being bitten right now. So with that being said, I am going to be getting back into sewing. I have been having issues with my sewing machine, but I have a pillowcase that I need to make, and I need to figure out how to do different stitching. But yeah, if you haven't heard of the artist's way, you should definitely look it up. The concept is reconnecting to your inner child and, kind of giving you an active way to do so, which I love. I love a good active way. So the last section here, chapter 3, introspection. This is the final part of my reset framework, if you will. I believe you have to have an active part, which to me was creativity, and then you have to also have a reflective part. So for me, that's going to be alone time, introspection. I'm a very curious person. I think that's part of my personality. And that curiosity, very much involves exploring. So as someone who explores and wants to learn a lot, I believe that there has to be this absorption and reflection period where you actually take in everything that you've learned and think about it for a bit to really get the value of whatever new thing that you just learned. So I know that's a little bit abstract, but having some alone time to just think your thoughts is kind of rare. We have to make space for that. You don't get to do that a lot if you're always on the go. And if you're like me, who lives a little bit of a, very chaotic lifestyle, and you're trying to do a bunch of things at once, alone time is what I personally crave because, it allows me to recenter and think through the meaning behind everything that I do. It all goes back again to intentionality. What that might actually look like in practice is asking myself, what do I value most? What do I value most right now in this time period of my life? And my favorite question to ask people is, what is getting you excited right now? If you know me in real life, I ask that question every single week because there's always something to be excited for. And if you don't ask that question, you won't think about it. And there's much to be excited about. I think it's a good way to bring out the positive things and the excitement and re-energize yourself, even if it's something small. Maybe it's something as small as making a smoothie. For me, I'm really excited to make my cardamom buns, or I'm really excited to finish up the sewing project, or I'm really excited to just spend some time with Olive. There are always little things that you kind of can get out of that. It's just a good practice. I mean, you can go deeper than that, but those are some things off the top of my head. But yeah, the reason that it's my favorite is because it makes you think and it makes you reflect. And, it's all about asking yourself the right questions when you're kind of, embracing this alone time. Very zen from the standpoint of an actual action to take. You can ask yourself questions, and you can also do these things while you're working out. For me, working out was actually a big means of introspection. I love to listen to music when I run. I've been really into just zoning out, focusing one foot in front of the other. That's what I like about walking, running, just moving my body. I feel like it's a beautiful way to just, center yourself. So working out is huge for me. I'm actually going to go to the gym after I film this, walking around, listening to music, drinking some caffeine, just activities that, bring you joy, and asking yourself those questions what do I value right now? What are my priorities? How do I feel right now? And just doing a little check-in with yourself. You can even do that in journaling. There's so many ways in which this can manifest into an action. It's all about just spending time alone and reflecting on what's important to you, because you are the most important thing that matters to you, or should. That is all I have for you today. That was my 3-step ritual, routine, reset, whatever you want to call it. I find that I am much happier as a human being when I'm engaging in these things. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you got something out of this. And if not anything, hopefully it was entertaining. And yeah, I will see you in my next week's video.